Welcome back to the Grow Like a Mother podcast. I am your host, Jill, and today I have Amber with me. Amber is a civil engineer, a serial entrepreneur, and a TV star, and she inspires women to discover their wow factor through building their dream digital business, personal branding, and self love. Australia's leading voice in online business, Renae educates thousands of students in all corners of the globe on a range of topics from entrepreneurship, digital marketing, influencer marketing, and the power of personal branding, a lot of which we're going to be talking about today. She's the star of the US reality show Dream Life, which documents the creation of her latest e-learning project. And she's also an author of The Dream Life, the book. So Amber, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks so much, Jill. I'm so excited to connect with your beautiful audience.
Yes, we're so excited to have you here. I would love for you to share with us how you got where you are. Before we hit record, you were mentioning to me that you've been an entrepreneur for a while, but it hasn't always been a smooth road. Can you take me through what the early days looked like and your experience?
Well, as you heard already, I did used to work on a construction site building roads and bridges, but finished up that job and followed my passion of wanting to start a fashion label, which is all I ever dreamed of doing as a little girl. My first collection, if you will, I made 4 shirts and sold 4 shirts. Then we made 8 shirts the next week and sold 8 shirts. And 5 years later, I had 120 accounts around the world. We exported to Paris, Tokyo, LA, and South Africa, and dressed some of the biggest celebrities at the time. And that was like Paris Hilton. And this was before really social media was a thing. So we were doing influencer marketing before influencer marketing was even a thing, dressing some of the biggest celebrities in the world. And I genuinely thought I would run that label for the rest of my life. It was all I wanted to do. But I say the universe lovingly had bigger plans for me. My manufacturer went out of business, which caused me to go out of business. And I realized I had a mental breakdown on the side of a highway, had to go in a hospital, and realized that I'd basically worked myself to death. I had cancer, I had stomach ulcers, I had to go on anti-anxiety and antidepressant tablets. And that was my first iteration of business, Jill. So, not exactly what we see on Instagram these days.
Wow.
So that was a lot to deal with. Coming out of that, I swore I would never be an entrepreneur ever again. I went back and got a job for about a year, and it turns out I'm a terrible employee. So I got fired from that job and started a second business, which was a consulting business. So I'm sure a lot of your audience is in this type of business model right now where you're trading your time for money. So you're showing up every day, you're servicing one client at a time. At the end of the week, if you haven't done your marketing, you've got no clients for next week. So it's this constant hamster wheel of either not enough time in the month or not enough dollars in the month. So that business was, I was a fashion stylist, but pretty quickly into that business, I realized that I was positioning myself as a powerful personal brand. And as a result of that, I was winning jobs that I had no right to win. So I ended up being the fashion editor of a national glossy magazine and the resident stylist at our biggest radio and TV network here. And I got the job as a TV presenter for Fashion TV. So I was living my best fashionista life. I was sitting front row at Fashion Week, interviewing celebrities, talking about fashion all day long, thinking, this is the dream. I'm never not going to do this. This is all I've wanted to do. And again, the universe had bigger plans for me. So I lost all of my contracts in the space of a month due to the effects of the GFC finally hitting my industry. And I was unemployed and unemployable. I could not get a job anywhere. I couldn't get a bar job. I tried to go back to the construction site. They didn't want me back. I had no prospects. But thankfully, my brother at the time said, you need to teach an online business. This was in 2015. So I used to have to explain to people what an online course was. So I used to say, you're going to log in on your phone, you're going to watch it with your, watch me talk on a video. I literally had to explain the whole thing. So this was my first online course was how to be a fashion stylist. It was the first fashion styling online course in the world. It did 6 figures in the first year and it does 6 figures every year since then. And this is when I learned the power of going from a one-to-one business model to a one-to-many business model, because I taught that course once and it has made me money over and over again, just like a real estate investment, which is what I now teach. I teach about building your online estate content. So I built that estate content in 2015 and it has had a better ROI than any real estate investment. And that's why I'm now so passionate about helping everyone, especially mums, busy mums who are struggling enough with their family, to make sure that you've got something on the side that is ticking over, that doesn't take you any more time. So my first online course was the fashion styling. My second one was personal branding and publicity, which is what I was doing in my offline business. My third one was a mindset course. So as you heard already, I had some quite severe struggles that I had to overcome. I didn't think that I was a Deepak Chopra or Louise Hay or any expert. I had no qualifications to teach anything in mindset, except that I knew a few things that I knew I could help someone who was a couple of steps behind me. So I taught that course, and then I realized that I was really good at teaching courses. So then I created a course about courses, which is called Freedom Funnels. And I've since gone on to write the book about running an online business. And we now have a done for you course creation agency where we help time poor mums, experts, coaches, consultants, freelancers to create their online course for them. So
This
it's been an evolution.
This is wild. Like you couldn't make this story up, but I can so clearly see as you're walking us through your journey how one thing really set you up well for the next thing and the lessons you learned along the way and how you incorporate them into the next thing that you teach. And you continue to show resilience and ambition and just excitement for what you do. I applaud you. I think that is so magnificent. And one thing just made me giggle. I just need to call this out for all of the entrepreneurs about how you're a terrible employee. I feel like once you're an entrepreneur, you can never not be an entrepreneur, you know? We're just built different.
Exactly. Yeah, I used to like tell my boss that he's running his business the wrong way. No, that's not what you do when you're the employee. But I
That's
love
right.
what you mentioned there. So that through line of the skills that I was collecting subtly along the way have all led me to this point where I am in my life, where I really believe that I'm living my fullest existence. I have all of my skills that I picked up along the way that I'm currently utilizing in this business. For instance, my engineering degree I use every day when I'm reading Facebook algorithms and trying to hack, Facebook ads, and looking at these incredible spreadsheets that we use. My personal branding and fashion styling, which we heard about, I'm now using to teach other people to show up online, to be able to present, to get publicity, to show up as a personal brand, to create content. So I really think for everyone, if you think back to the through line, the skills that you've collected along the way, they will be leading you subtly to the point that you're supposed to be at. Whether it looks like a hardship, which is what mine often did look like, the two business failures, they were the two greatest failures in my life. Like to me, that was the hardest things that I've ever been through. And yet they allowed me to pivot and to go into something that is much more aligned with my true intention in life. In this business, I teach people for a living. I help people for a living. And that is something that I'm super passionate about. So I do really encourage everyone, if you're going, I don't really have anything that I could teach, or there's no real skills that I've learned, I encourage you to look back at all of your life's experiences and think, what is that thing that you could tie together to turn back and help the person that's a couple of steps behind you?
Yeah, I hear it all the time from moms. They're just lost in all of the mix of being attentive to someone else all day. They forget about their own special skills, right? And who they are. And this is a really great reminder. Is this what you sort of refer to as that wow factor of figuring out what it is about us specifically that we can contribute and bring to the world? Find the right track?
100%. You totally nailed it. So that is what your wow factor is. It's the thing that makes you completely uniquely you. We can't compare you with anyone else, your competitors. You're a completely unique person, and you're showing up online in a way that feels completely authentic to you, sharing your story authentically, as I've just done today. I wasn't able to always speak about these things because they were incredibly difficult times in my life, but it's in the sharing of the unique journey, the unique story, and connecting with someone online and getting to know the person behind the brand. That's how we actually form that connection with people. And that connection leads to an inevitable purchase down the track. So that's really is what I'm passionate about sharing with people.
I love that. And it's just striking me as we're chatting, like you are obviously very smart, you're very beautiful, you're very accomplished. But like what I can feel about your wow factor just in our short time together is you're so kind. Like that's what I get from my just brief interactions with you, hearing you share your story, the vulnerability, the authenticity, like that's what it is. It's not necessarily about all of the the obvious things that are in your face, like the smart, the brilliant, the beautiful. That's wonderful. But it's that inner peace that makes you really shine. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, thank you, Jill. I lovingly accept that compliment. Thank you. That's a beautiful thing to say. And I think we all have that. We all have that inner wow factor that we're often, especially as women, we don't like to be seen, we don't like to be heard. And so we spend our entire days as mums looking after someone else. So we forget about our wow factor and we forget about that the fact that we are important too. And it's important for us to be sharing our light so that not only can our children see, wow, my mum is magnetic, but also so that you can, grow your family and grow your business.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. And there's two thoughts that come to mind, and we can tackle them separately, but I don't want to forget them because I'll go down a random train. Um, how do we find our wow factor is my first thought. And my second thought is what happens when we're scared to show up. So
Mhm.
let's start with like, here I am, I'm listening to this podcast. I feel an urge to really rediscover myself and I'm not sure even where to start. What do you recommend for your clients?
So often the place to start is to actually start putting some attention on you. We are the last person that we put attention on. When at the end of the day, we haven't even spent 2 minutes thinking about ourselves. And what I've learned from my fashion background is the way that we show up in the world is the way that the world will reflect back to us. So if we are showing up in the world, and we know we've all had those days where you race out the door, you've got mismatched shoes on, and you haven't brushed your hair in 3 days, and you look scruffy, and then that's how the world reflects back to you. You don't have beautiful interactions that day. You don't get beautiful compliments, which is beautiful to have compliments, people giving you compliments, that's allowed to be received. And you don't have those nice interactions with people. If you reflect back to the times that you have, on the flip side of that, gone maybe to an event that you put on your fancy dress that you really love, or that great color that you look good in, or you put on the nice shoes, whatever that thing is for you that makes you feel really good about yourself, you left that house with a confidence in your step. You had your shoulders back. You were happy to have your voice seen and heard. You were happy to have conversations with strangers. If you're an introvert, that's a big deal for me. So you were happy to go and do these things because you had that thing that makes you feel good. So I always encourage women to figure out what that thing is. It may be a fancy pair of earrings that you only wear on special occasions. Well, my advice is you get them out, you wear them every day that you want to feel good. If that means that you're having a bad day at home with the kids, you go upstairs, you put the fancy earrings on, and then you mop that damn floor with those nice earrings on. And if it means that, it could be something as subtle as the fancy underwear that no one has to even know exists, but you know that you're wearing that and it makes you feel powerful and strong and confident and want to put yourself out there. And I can tell you firsthand the power that had when I was dressing celebrities as a celebrity stylist. The number of celebrities that I started working with, because obviously I was a beginner, I started working with D-list celebrities. They were nobodies. They were just, on the worst TV shows. And over time, over me dressing them, making them look amazing, every time they would go to an event, they'd get in the best dress list. Every time they were, seen anywhere, people would want to come up and interview them. Who are you? What are you wearing? And over time, they ended up getting bigger and bigger jobs. They were making more and more money. And it was all just through the power of how they were showing up in the world. And so that's why I know firsthand that this stuff really works.
That's incredible. I mean, the power of putting yourself first, the power of investing some time, energy, and money, if you've got it, into how you feel about yourself. And it's like, as you mentioned with your examples, it doesn't have to be a physical thing, right? It can be something that nobody sees. It can be something that's just for you. It can even be, oh gosh, I'm going to come up with some examples, and I want to I almost want to do like a reel or a post or a blog about this idea because it's so wonderful to think that just by making a small shift, and it's all our mindset as well, we can really step into this and figure out what makes us feel good, figure out what small change we can make to show up differently in the world and the impact that that can have. My thought though is that there's people listening who are thinking, okay, I know my wow thing. That's not my issue. My block is that every time I try to do it, I feel like an imposter, like I'm not worthy of it, or that people are going to like see through me. Can you give us some advice for that? Because I'm sure that that's common. I bet that you've seen that.
Imposter syndrome is a very public syndrome. There's been a lot of very famous celebrities that have come out and said that they have it. People like Tom Hanks and high-powered corporate women that are working for like Facebook and things like that. So first of all, acknowledging that you're not alone. We all feel like this. And for those of you who haven't experienced it, imposter syndrome is where you feel like people are going to eventually find out that you're a phony or that you're faking it or that you don't know what you're actually talking about. So this is something that is an internal program that we are subconsciously telling ourselves over and over again, often multiple times in multiple situations. So the way that you want to rewire that programming is by taking small action steps in situations that have little to no significance. So often imposter syndrome will show up in a way in a situation that really matters. So maybe you're in the corporate world and you're in the big board meeting and you're about to stick your hand up and say something and then you're like, nope, not going to say that. And that's the imposter syndrome showing up. Well, it's hard to rewire your brain when you're in that situation because there's so many other things going on it makes it impossible. Instead, you want to start reprogramming yourself in situations that have little to no significance. So, for instance, if you're the girl in the girly group, when the group chat says, "Hey, where does everyone want to go out for dinner tonight?" You just go, "Oh, I don't mind. I'll go. I'll go wherever." But secretly, you have somewhere that you secretly want to go to, but you just want to be the easygoing people pleaser. So the way in that situation, what you would then do is put your hand up and you would say, "Hey, girls, why don't we go here? I've got a suggestion." Whether that suggestion gets implemented or not is irrelevant. What we're working on here is building your muscle of putting your hand up when you're feeling uncomfortable, being seen, being heard in situations that really don't matter, but you're practicing that muscle of, you know what, I believe in myself. I believe that my word is important and I'm going to put my hand up and speak.
Mhm. Sounds a lot like the resilience of the practice, right? I feel like so much of what you're talking about and what you're teaching and what you're helping other people overcome or implement is resilience in the face of challenge or fear or failure. Is that accurate? Does that feel like something that resonates with you?
And I think we've all built up failure to be this big, scary thing. Like our whole world is going to end if something goes wrong. And if we look at my story, every time I've had one of the worst failures in my life, and they've been pretty remarkable, pretty tragic, it's led me to live a much bigger and brighter life. So now when I think about failures, I think, well, hopefully I can fail quickly. Like,
Right.
let me get in, let me fail quickly, and let me figure out, get the lessons from that failure and then go and start the next thing. So now I really cherish failures. I really look forward to learning from the mistakes. And I guess that has come with building a resilient mindset and realizing that the things that went wrong in the past were not really that bad. I was able to overcome them. I was able to get lessons out of them. And now I'm able to help other people with those stories. And I think you'll find that most people, if they go through these sorts of experiences, they just want to give back. They want to share their story and help other people.
Hmm. Yeah, and that's so beautiful that we can use these experiences as a giving opportunity to share what we've gone through, to share and to help the person who's coming up against the same thing right behind us get through it a little easier. Talk to me a little bit about how you work with your community, because I know you've got like a thriving online presence. You've got your book. What's your favorite way to connect with people and work with them?
Well, I really think everyone should read Dream Life, the book. It's the cost of a coffee, and it covers my 5-step dream methodology, which we talked a lot about today. So D is mindset. We speak about imposter syndrome in the book. E is estate content. So we talk about building your estate content. R is personal branding, and then we have courses and funnels as well. So it is a really fantastic book. Price of a coffee. It's some of my best work. And then if any of the busy mums are looking to create an online course, we have a whole agency where we take that whole pressure off your back and we create the whole course for you. So it's a really efficient and quick way to get your online course built.
That's so fantastic. I wish I had found you when I was first starting out, because the time I could have saved myself. Do you know what I mean? But I can imagine that you also work with people who are in growing businesses, not just in the beginning stages, right? Are you also helping establish businesses and business owners?
Exactly. So that's what my suite of evergreen courses help people with. So Freedom Funnels is the course about courses and funnels. We have a personal branding course where we speak a lot about what we talked about today. So showing up online, creating content, getting publicity, personal branding, signature style, and then the mindset course as well, which I know a lot of your audience would be interested in.
Amazing. Well, If you're listening and you want to get in touch with Amber Renae, please shoot her a DM on Instagram. Tell her that you heard about her here on Grow Like a Mother. Shoot her your questions because she's a wealth of information. I'm wondering if there's anything that hasn't been talked about yet that feels super important or anything on your heart that you want to share before we wrap up our time together today.
I think if you are listening to this conversation, then it's found you for a reason. So think about all of the thousands and millions of podcasts that you could have shown up and listened to today. Think about all the people you could be following online. And I think if you've heard this and you're feeling called to like, oh, I think I want to explore that side hustle a bit more, or I think I want to create some online estate content that's going to generate passive income forever, I do encourage you all to explore it. At least start going down the path, listening to more podcasts on it, reading some blogs, reading books, and start figuring out if there is a feeling that it feels like it might be for you. Then I generally think, having looked at my journey, it has ended up being for me. So all of my journey, all of my businesses, I started on a whim. I just followed my bliss. So I didn't have big plans of, even in this business, I didn't know I was growing an online business. I didn't know I was going to create this empire. I just sat down one day with the intention of sharing my knowledge to the next generation of stylists. It was not a thing back then. Like, there was no people having these online businesses back then. It wasn't something I even knew I was creating. I just knew I was so passionate about it. And on the weekends, I would study courses on Facebook marketing and read blogs about email marketing. It was just something I love doing. So if you're getting that little tingly feeling right now, I do encourage you to follow your bliss and see what is on the other side of it for you.
Follow those breadcrumbs. I have an affirmation that I say every single day, and that is the more that I follow my heart, my dreams, and my desires, the better my life becomes. And it sounds like that is exactly what you're saying as well. We're so aligned. Thank you for your time. It's been such a pleasure chatting.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a beautiful conversation.